Welcome to Comics with Dan. We're going to be reviewing Hello Darkness number 4. This fourth issue of the horror anthology from Boom, Hello Darkness, it was probably the weakest entry so far. I find it kind of odd that the Something is Killing the Children story, it's rotating like every other issue. We got it in issue number 1, which I think was a big pull for a lot of people. And then it skipped issue 2. We got a story in 3. And now we are supposed to be getting more stories from this creative team in issues 5 and 6. But truthfully, even the stories we have got have been a little slow. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if the solicit for number 6 changes by the time we get there and we don't get a story. Something is Killing the Children story in that one. As for the stories that are in this book, there are some really good and some really not good. So let's dive in. So I really enjoyed this story. It's about somebody who spends all of their time doing things for other people. Their mom, their boss, random strangers that they see. And it just becomes so overwhelming and they quit their job and go on this sort of wellness retreat in the wilderness. And as you know, going off in the wilderness in the horror genre is always a great idea and never ends badly. The art in this by Elijah Henry and Jason Wordie is just absolutely gorgeous. These pages here that you see, we get this really cool panel design where it goes back and forth on the page, and we get extremely vibrant colors. I particularly love this cop's face. It looks exactly like those old pre-Comics Code horror comics that you used to see. It's just really great stuff. If you're a returning viewer, you know Taylor Esposito is one of my favorite letterers, and he does a really great job here. He differentiates the lettering used for text received, text sent, and just general narration. I think what's best about his work here is the way that he places these text boxes around the panel design that was put on the page. I think that if Esposito wasn't one of the best in the business, then you might see another letterer come in and kind of muck up the presentation of this this layout that I really like. And I think that Esposito does a great job letting this really cool layout kind of speak for itself and doesn't have the lettering get in the way. It also guides the reader here. He places the text boxes in a way that there's no doubt as to what you should read next, even though these are extremely non-traditional panel placements here. This is a preview of a series that comes out in December, and it plays on the fact that over half the cells in the human body are not human cells, which is not something that I knew until I looked it up after reading this. So in this story, people can essentially bloom or let the plant cells that are in their body sort of grow, and then they become like horribly disfigured and have like plants growing out of their head, spores coming out of them, that sort of thing. They're essentially disfigured, but it's becoming the popular thing to do in this story. So I think it's definitely going to be a commentary on sort of following what's popular and doing what everyone else is doing, which is definitely something I'm interested in reading about. I think it makes for some really interesting artwork, and the artwork is beautiful by John Pearson, also assisted by Lola Bonato. It looks like it could really be something worth looking into in December for sure. I do have to say I'm okay. This is I think the first time that we see what's essentially a preview for another story in Hello Darkness. I mean, you can consider the Something is Killing the Children stories being sort of a preview for another book, but my understanding is that those are supposed to be their own story. This was essentially just a preview for another book. That's fine with me. I just hope that it doesn't become a habit to have too many of these, because I don't really want to be reading an anthology that's just previews for other books. Before I talk about this section, if you want to avoid the discussion of any explicit content, skip ahead to the next section for I Can't Take You Anywhere at the timestamp on the screen. So this story was basically tentacle porn. I recognized the talent of the artist. The art was beautiful black and white illustrations, impeccable line work, but the content of the art was tasteless and extremely off-putting. I'm sure I'm going to get slammed for being a prude, but to me this goes way beyond being accepting of explicit content. There are tasteful ways to put nudity into art, and this is definitely not it. The story wasn't scary, it wasn't funny. It would have been an interesting premise if not for all the perversion that went through it. I'm definitely going to be avoiding anything from this creator in the future. 2 more one-panel cartoons here. I absolutely love these ones. I've said this with just about every review, but these are like Sunday newspaper comic strips that aren't really appropriate for the newspaper. They're just too much fun. I'd love to see these appear in their own collection someday. I think that'd be awesome. This is probably the best part of this story so far. The bomb finally drops on New York at the end of last issue, and we see the aftermath of that here. In the preview pages here, you can see that the characters that were on the subway, it's shown in pitch black, which is a really cool storytelling choice here. I will say I've disliked these characters to the point of not bothering to remember their names. But hearing them talk to each other, in the wake of this tragedy is pretty good writing. Ennis manages to make me feel bad for these folks that I have really not cared about up to this point. Jordi Belair and Tamara Bonvillain are a really fun team. I think they produce just some really awesome art. Facial expressions paired with bleaker looking colors than what Bonvillain typically uses make this one of the best pages in the book. It's great to see how Bonvillain can shift gears between superhero books and this. They're 2 completely different styled books, ones that are colored completely differently, but she rocks both of them. Pat Brosseau's letters are really well done. There's a good flow to the story, and a couple of tweaks to the lettering that make it a little more interesting. Not anything particularly flashy, but definitely gets the job done. As I said earlier on, this was a weaker entry in the anthology, perhaps the weakest so far. Dying for Quiet was really great, but All Eyes on Me really ruined it for me. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, but that was heavily propped up by the creative team of Dying for Quiet. It's really tough to say as to whether or not you should pick this up. On one hand, I want people to support the creators that made the good stories in this book. However, I don't want to promote something that I don't think should exist, or especially not in this anthology. Hopefully Boom Studios gets a little more selective on who they include in the Hello Darkness anthology moving forward. Make sure you like the video, make sure that you subscribe, check out my other videos here, and thank you for watching.